Alright, this is my first video about the RV. I'm going to start off talking about the solar system that I put in. The solar panels, the charge controller, and I got a new battery while I was at it too. First I'm going to talk about the physical installation in this video, and in a separate video I'm going to go into more of the nuts and bolts, the math behind it, and why I chose exactly the equipment that I got. This was just going to show where the panels are mounted up top, how I got the wires inside. This charge controller right here, it's a fairly cheap charge controller, but after doing the research I found that it was going to be fine for what I wanted to do. And the way I got the power from the charge controller to the battery was kind of neat, and you'll see that I managed to avoid having to do a long run to the battery in the back of the RV. Instead I just wired the charge controller to the fuse panel right into the seat that I'm sitting on right now. And that saved me a lot of trouble that I thought I was going to get into with this installation. It made the wiring very simple. So yeah, I'm going to go up on the roof, show you guys the panels, and then I'll come back down here and get into more detail about how all of this works. Alright, here I am up on the roof, and you can see, let me back up a little bit more. Hopefully that background noise isn't too bad. There's construction at the RV park, and there's also occasional helicopters flying over, so I'll try and get this done. You can see there's one and then the other solar panel, and this is the fantastic fan that I put in too. So this roof looks a lot different than it did when I got the RV. There used to be a wine guard antenna. Actually, you can see it down there. I still need to throw it away or possibly sell it. I don't know if it's worth any money, but it had a little nub that stuck up out of here, and then there was a crank underneath, and you think it could go up to get old school radio, or I mean TV signals. I wanted to have a more fancy mounting situation, but I just used the Z brackets that come with these guys and put screws directly into the material in the roof, which kind of sucks because I can't get under here. So if I ever wanted to access the bottom side of the panels, I'd have to actually unscrew these things from the wood. But I decided I was just going to go ahead and do that after I spent days and days trying to find better mounting systems. Couldn't find them, and then I said, hey, this is my first solar panel installation anyway. It's a $5,000 RV. I'm just going to go ahead and put them on there. So they're just bolted directly in. The solar panel just has these short wires that come out, and then you have to get wires that clip onto them, and then the other end is just a bare wire, and I'll show you how that plugs into the solar controller. So yeah, and there's the other one. I need to clean these guys off. I didn't realize how dusty they've gotten. Might need to actually come up here with a squeegee and a bucket of water. So these are the wires coming from the other solar panel. It's exactly the same. And then they go into the vent that comes out the top of the fridge. People like to use fridges because it's a tunnel that goes down into the RV that's already got a protection over the top for rain. So I have some pictures that I'll put in. I don't want to open this thing up right now because I found out how bad of a shape that this cover is in. The wall between the fridge and my cupboard was right here. So when we get inside, you'll see how I figured out that I could make a very short run with these wires to the solar controller. So on the inside of the RV, you can see the fridge there, right there, and this is the dinette. And underneath this seat is the power panel, which you can see here. When you look at it, it's got all the circuit breakers from the 110 volt that come in when you're plugged in right here, and these are all automotive fuses. This is the 12 volt system. So let me open this guy up, by which I mean you can actually get at the back side and all the guts of this. So to do that, I don't know how common this layout is, but I think it's fairly common for this bench to have stuff underneath it. So this is not a storage compartment, and you'll see why once I get it open, because there's live electricity in here, and not only the 12 volt, which could hurt you, but the 110 volt, when it's connected, that could definitely hurt you. So alright, let's talk about how I got the wires in here. They came in directly overhead here into the fridge's vent, and then they take an immediate churn, and this is where they came in. And there's nothing fancy about this. I just fed it in. There's 4 wires, 2 for each solar panel, a negative and a positive. And then out the bottom through another hole that I drilled. like that. The battery is actually in the back. I'd like to show that to you too, so I'll have to record that separately and maybe edit it in. So you can see that the wiring was going to have to come back to here. This is the battery box. And I'll open it up and show you what it looks like. But that's a pretty long run. So these marine batteries, they just look like car batteries. They work very much the same. You know, it's even wired on there the same way. But the batteries themselves have different characteristics. They're made to discharge more energy at a slower pace, whereas your car battery just jams out a bunch of power when it's starting the car and then gets topped right back off by your car's alternator. These things are made to discharge more slowly and not be damaged by that. So this is a $90 109 amp hour EverStart battery from Walmart, and yeah, that's where she's at. But it's all the way in the back there. Actually underneath the shower has this goofy shape to its tub, and the reason for that is that the battery's underneath. So there's my shower, guys. So yeah, this the battery is underneath here. So I've actually thought about moving the battery up to the actual dinette area, getting a sealed battery that won't present any problems with fumes coming out. They have sealed batteries that are safe to use inside, and sticking that over here and installing a full-size tub in there. So they come through, and then the solar panel to the charge controller is pretty simple. They just come in. I had to put a fuse in line. This fuse is protecting the solar controller from that. So they're wired in parallel, and these are both of the positives coming in, and then they are, you know, spliced in, and then that comes up positive from the solar panels. You can see that this terminal is labeled for that, and then the negatives just come in together. And then you can see that this label, or this terminal, is labeled to go to the battery. And this is where I came up with a brainstorm that made this a lot easier, a lot more logistically easy. So actually, I'll backtrack real quick. The charge controller, instead of screwing it in, I just went ahead and used Velcro, and it's on there nice and firm. So I'm happy with the way that looks right now, other than the dust. I gotta clean up before I make these videos. So as you can see, these two wires come down. They're both white, which is kind of weird, but I made sure and double extra checked that I was correct on my positive and negative with my labeling. So they actually come in and wire directly into the terminals that go to the battery. So this positive is the only thing that actually goes to the battery. It's this wire here, and this negative just comes straight down and is bolted onto the chassis. So this whole block here is just all the negatives leads. So with this direct current electricity, you don't need the negative to actually go to the same place. The battery's negative terminal doesn't need to come all the way here. It can just be wired into the chassis there, and then the electrical switching box, or whatever you call this thing, its negative just goes down here, and everything works fine. So you can kind of see that right here. So you can see where my white cable is just bolted on to the red cable from the battery. That's the positive. And then the negative doesn't even come over here. My negative, I just went in and it shares one of these bolts because I couldn't find the thread count. I tried to go to the hardware store and find bolts that would screw into these two extra holes. Couldn't find them. I decided to quit messing around, and it's screwed in with the LP detector. The LP detector's fuse is right here. The negative side of it goes down here. My solar panels are just screwed in with that. So the charge controller is wired to the negative right here, and the positive goes here. So electrically, it's identical to being connected directly to the battery, because this run is inherent to the battery anyway. So the solar panels just wire right on there. I might get little capture things to either bolt these down, or maybe some kind of Velcro solution, but I haven't really felt the need. I think it looks kind of neat the way it is, and it hasn't gotten in the way, so I haven't been incentivized to mess with it any further. Man, look at all this dust. So that's it for the physical installation. It was a lot of fun putting this in. It was actually easier than I thought it was going to be, and I've tested it out over 2 days. The solar panels do put enough of a charge to maintain the battery's charge on sunny days. So it's kind of neat to know that I added a capability to this old RV, and if I needed to, live in a Walmart parking lot or go on a camping trip that was a week long, I think it would be able, especially in good weather, to keep its own battery charged without having to use a loud generator or have to plug into someone's house. I consider it a success. I got this stuff put in, and I have an RV now that can live off the grid, which is pretty cool. So yeah, thanks for watching.